Happy Saturday, SMITE fans, and welcome into the SMITE Challenger Circuit. We've got another NA matchup for you here today to round out this weekend in the SCC. And remember, as we move forward through these weeks, standings ever so important for these SEC squads in order to make their run towards the what are we calling it? The play-in stages for the SEC, moving towards World. So every match so important here this weekend. Cannot wait to get into it. My name is Dolson. Billy is with me for another SEC. Who let you up here?
I've been here multiple times now.
Again, who let you up here? Let me rephrase.
The door's open.
You can just walk in,
I can just walk in. I have my own key card.
Is someone tied up in the green room?
No. Not today.
No, not this time. I really like your shirt, Billy. What's next to what's on the bowling pins there? What does it say?
Oh, it says Satan's Alley, which is hit the bowling place to go bowling.
Oh, is it actually a place?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I want to bowl there. Anyway, Billy's with me for the SEC here this morning, and we've got a great matchup in the North American SCC. We had two matches already this weekend, both of them in North America. 3-game sets as the Sages beat the Wardens in 3, and the Eldritch Hounds beat the Tanuki in 3 as well. And remember, that matchup, very, very important between the Hounds and the Tanuki. That puts the Hounds in sole possession of first place. You're looking towards the Storm and the Weavers here. And Billy, if standings are any indication, this is only a couple matches in. The Storm may be favored here up against the Weavers.
Yeah, the Storm got their win last week, and the Weavers didn't. So, of course, the advantage kind of splits the entire rank of the standings. However, we see the Cowlin Wardens at the bottom, which is also very shocking. A team that made it to the Masters summer event a few months ago is now 0-2, sitting at the bottom. I think the SEC, at least for the NA here, is very flexible in terms of ranking.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with the Wardens. Unsure what's going on with that squad. Hopefully be able to turn things around. Some fan favorite names over there on the North American SEC team. But the Storm not only favored standings-wise, but I think as far as the actual roster of this team goes, you got Delney, Dame, Joshi, Oceans, and In My Zen. Names that certainly fans of the SEC and people who have watched Masters events and SPL qualifier events in the past should be familiar with. And really, it's sort of that core 3v3 that I keep my eyes on. Dame, Joshi, Oceans. Billy, so strong here for this Xibalba Storm team.
Yeah, so this team, formerly known as the Fun Havers, did have that roster change coming in the start of this phase. So Dame coming in, including with Joshi mid, Oceans, is just a lot of pressure in that mid lane. Mid lane fights go very well in their favor from the last match that we saw with them because there's just so much aggression, but also so much synergy team play. Right. They're always on the same page as each other. They want to go in. They want to get some action going. And Delney and In My Zen, both on those side lanes, very good playing by themselves on an island. They're very strong players, and when they can fight in these 5v5 situations, they exceed pretty much in any situation.
Yeah, Delney had a really good first set of the phase for the Storm team. A 5-3-9 game on the Guan Yu, 3-0-5 on the Cabrakan in game number 1. Dame, a very versatile player as well. I think back to the Summer Masters event, the SPL qualifier event, and a lot of what Dame was able to do, flexible from mid to jungle, things like that. And a formidable roster to go up against. On the flip side, the Anansi Weavers, a team that's looking to build some momentum in this phase of the SCC. Sort of a roster that's been pieced together. But again, some names that people who have watched the SCC, viewers who have seen the SCC in the past should be familiar with. Of course, Mando Warrior, Chinfu, Sops, Big Slim Timmy Jim. Thank God Mifflin's not on the cast for this one. You'd never hear the end of it. And Diesel as well. And so I think just name-wise, the Storm favored as far as the roster and their consistency and the level of play in the past of a few of those players. But the Weavers, they kind of got that X factor, that question mark where a player can step into this game and potentially pop off. They have the potential to maybe make a good set here against the Storm.
Yeah, as opposed to other SEC teams, the Weavers, what they have going for them at least is that they didn't make any real roster changes going into this phase. Right. They're sticking together as a team. They played in the SEC relegations, which takes to the bottom 2 SEC teams, the top 2 SOC teams, faces them against each other, and they did earn their spot back. It's not like this team is full of chumps, they have the potential to keep
I
going,
didn't say
to
it.
play very strong, to play very well. I think last week they did have the unfortunate effect of losing their first game. So sure, at the bottom of the standings for sure, but it's not like they're too far off of coming back into it. Getting a win here today can just kind of cement them back at that 1-1 state. One more win is making them at the 2-1 state, and only success from there if you keep winning.
Yeah, agreed. It's about building momentum and flipping the early portion of your phase around, because an 0-2 start looks so different from a 1-1 start as far as getting yourself back into it, getting into the standings. Because in reality, we're only a couple weeks away from being halfway through the phase. I mean, we're starting to get there. We're only one match in, but these games start to add up rapidly. So we got Storm, and we got Weavers, and we've got picks and bans for game number 1 just around the corner. And so we've seen meta changes in the SPL, like week over week over week. We've seen how the SEC tends to respond to things like that. Have you noticed large whole-scale differences between SEC prioritization in GODS versus SPL, or do you think very similar to one another?
So they do have pretty similar setups in terms of picks and bans. The Sylvanas ban, very standard for a Weavers game. That's a Chinfu ban. All of their wins come from Sylvanas jungle for the most part, so that's why that's getting taken out. That's also followed by the Hercules. Very targeted bans here. So at least in this sense, we're kind of seeing more target bans to specific players on different teams, depending on what they find success with. However, all in all, what we find them picking, stuff like the Naja has a lot of value. Things like Yamoja have a lot of value. You can see that's why they get banned out, why they're getting picked. First pick Naja, that's very strong. Allows a lot of setup for the Weavers, but something that at least I really like in the SEC that we don't see in the SPL, and Hurry kind of alluded to it, is a focus on Neath. Neath being played in the mid lane, having a double hunter set up through Neath mid and what have you in the ADC lane is kind of finding its way through.
Look, I'm always a fan of Neath. It feels like Big Man Tings and the Camelot Kings, the type of team to play that Neath pick. The big one-shot style. Well, that hasn't been Hidden Blade. Feels like we've seen a lot of Bluestone with Neath recently. Don't see it in the picks and bans just yet. Freya and Ratatosker, so you get some scaling later on to the game, and also the ability to make waves earlier on if it ends up being Rat Jungle. I think Ratatosker has really started to see increased prioritization. Yesterday in the SPL, decent amount of Ratatosker. In the SEC as well, we've seen an increase in play. Is this a Ratatosker specific change in your mind, or do you think the meta just starting to lean a bit more towards Rat and that style of play out of the jungle?
So I think Rat itself is a pick that can kind of have flexibility at least to switch between solo and the jungle role.
Right.
It does have a lot of success in jungle, mainly because the ultimate that Ratatosker has allows him to get this semi-global presence, but also quite literally put pressure on where he's going to be landing. You don't know if he's hopping to another branch, if he's going to slam straight down. Puts a lot of pressure on duo lane because he can hop right over from Gold Fury. It puts a lot of pressure back on Naja because you don't win that 1v1. Ratatosker can get in, get out of situations very quickly, and it kind of just fundamentally favors mobility that the Ratatosker brings.
Yeah, the Storm, you call it perfectly. Neath, Freya, so technically double ADC, one of them magical, and so you're able to diversify your style of damage just a bit there. And then Ratatosker to follow up on some World Weavers or vice versa. World Weavers to set up for the Through the Cosmos for Ratatosker could be a very, very potent combination for the Xibalba Storm here in game number 1. And Athena. My goodness, Billy. Global, semi-global, all of that type of presence for the Storm here early on. When you're drafting that heavily, I mean, semi-global with Ratatosker, full global for Athena, full global with the World Weaver, does that just totally change your mindset if you're on the Weavers now? Do you always feel like you're on edge? You got to change your positioning at any given time just because of the potential the Storm have?
Yeah, so the way Neath has typically been played that we've seen in the SEC is kind of just waiting up, level 20, get Mannequin's Hidden Blade, which allows you to just kind of ult out of nowhere, chunk someone half health. Rat can follow, Athena can follow the Rat going in. Guan on the horse now can take a ride down Main Street and pretty much just get a lot of things going in terms of a chase, in terms of distance. If you're the Weavers like you posed to me, it's kind of, we need to make sure we have numbers before we take a fight. If we're 1v1ing, you have to imagine an Athena ult's coming. If you start winning, if you start losing, a rat's going to be in the air, a Neath ult's going to come chunky. You have to be very careful, but you have to be very sure when you do have numbers and take the fight when you do.
Got to make sure your X's and O's are on point if you're the Anansi Weavers, because the mobility, the global presence, and the sudden jump down of the Xibalba Storm, the favorites going into game number 1, potentially overwhelming. So it obviously will be Ratatosker jungle as Dolson, Billy, and Doug bring you into game number 1. On the flip side, didn't get to talk much about the Weavers draft because I just kept getting so surprised with what the Storm were able to pull through. They got a tier solo, Naja out of the jungle, Discordia mid, and then Xingqian and Ho Yi. And so global, sudden presence, sudden dive and team fighting, maybe the name of the game for the Storm here. What is this team comp for the Anansi Weavers? What style of game plan do you think this comp lends itself to?
So it's a pretty standard just SMITE comp, really, what you have here. It's set up, damage on the backline, and hopefully you guys can get that CC going before you start dying. It's pretty simple. There are multiple ways to play through. I think this was a really good draft by the Weavers. The tier Fearless can blink in, can engage. Naja can take someone to the skies, have a lot of follow-up with Discordia in that mid lane. Diesel rocking the Ho Yi has a lot of just zone control and zone potential. And Coat Baby on Big Slim Timmy Jim, respectfully, is very strong. I think Xingqian is one of his stronger picks, at least in the support role. Typically, we do see him in that jungle and sometimes even solo flex. But what we see is a lot of just ability to make fights happen, and the response for the Weavers is going to be taking the fight and then relying on the Xibalba Storm having at least 6 to 10 seconds tops before someone can rotate, or a Neath ult finds you, an Athena ult finds you, a Rat ult finds you. You have time to get a pick going and get a fight going and just play off of a snowball, playing front to back, hit the frontliners first, hit the backliners second, and kind of just play through that in a team fight at least.
Yeah, it's going to require coordination then from the Anansi Weavers. I love the tier pick. I mean, the dynamic style of play, I think always a big question mark going into these games. Depends on the communication and the ability to adapt from the Xibalba Storm. Did you say Big Slim Timmy Jim is just Cope? Is that just a rename for Cope Baby?
He just likes the name better.
Got it, because Cope means Baby, something to me, right?
Yeah,
for the SEC.
Cope Baby is a good name.
Right.
Big Slim Timmy Jim makes you like scared.
Right, I'm nervous at Big Slim Timmy Jim, especially when I'm getting jumped on by the Burger Xingqian over in duo lane. A beautiful double taunt, though, from Oceans prevents what could have been first blood for the Weavers. Don't get to see a lot of Athena.
No.
Not as of late. What do you think makes it a good pick here for the Xibalba Storm?
So I think it's really good for the Storm because you do have, double.
Okay.
I was going to say
Goodbye.
double autos to help kill, but Dame's shown you just need some abilities sometimes. This blue invade is going off strong. I think Chinfu does need a crit to get it. He does.
Yep.
And that is a very safe blue buff at the least. You lose your solo laner, sure, but it's tier. Farm up, rotate. It's not that big of a deal to lose that. Securing the blue is the big thing there. But as you were saying, this Athena pick is very strong when you have two auto attackers, right? Because you play together, you taunt someone in, and before that taunt ends, hopefully there are 6 to 10, realistically, auto attacks from both your mid laner, your ADC, if you're playing together, that just melt the target before they can get out of the taunt, before beads come out, before the natural cooldown comes off. And hopefully that's enough to get a kill.
Well, we'll get there later in the game on the Athena. Right now, maybe a bit of a bait. Chinfu misses the sash, and another double taunt from Ocean's been on point on this Athena already. Zen holding the beads. Won't need to use them because Chinfu's got enough damage. And again, a bait and switch there for the Weavers. And they'll bring their Naja right on over. So you give up first blood over on the right side of the map, but a wonderful rotation to the left. And so often we talk about the need to lock down Freya early in the game, and so a great target for the Weavers to get a kill on.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into the strength of what the Weavers went around. Having the Xingqian here on the support means that auto attackers are essentially going to be doing less damage. His one, the Primordial Shout, I think. I'm not a game ability namer guy like that.
I'm sure not either. It's all good.
when you shout, when the tomato comes out for this little burger skin, it hits someone, they get reduced auto attack damage for a few seconds. That'll affect Freya and that'll affect Neath. very hard in these team fights. So having that ability to not only just have a lane to focus, but have 2 lanes to focus out means you not only get a good pressure target in Freya, and if you can swing this pressure or this lead over from your support into mid lane, that's going to be very, very strong for the Weavers, at least starting this off early, because the weakest kind of spot for a double hunter, at least pseudo double hunter that the Storm have drafted here, is this early game. You need to get the pressure going where you can, and hopefully it's strong enough to carry you into the late game.
Well, right now pressure for the Storm has been all on this blue buff. Chinfu able to secure another, but it's been invaded twice. How is that damage here already? Not even 5 minutes into the game, and a massive burst of damage, and another one for the Xibalba Storm over on the right side of the map. This time Oceans uses the ultimate to rotate over. Unfortunately, doesn't grab an assist on the Athena. And I was going to mention, we have hit that pivot point now. At the 5-minute mark, you've got the ultimate from Dame, the ultimate from Joshi, and the ultimate from Oceans. And so maybe, Billy, we're starting to expect some global presence from mid, from jungle, from support all over the map, and the Weavers need to be on alert.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not an instant win button for the Storm here. With the Ratatosk ult, with Neath ult, with Athena ult, you hit the wrong target, you're going to a different fight, side of the lane. With the wrong Neath target, you're going to hit someone low when someone 5 feet away is 10 HP. With a Rat ult, a little easier than the rest, I'll be honest. You kind of just get to pick and choose where you land.
That's why I play Rat jungle.
But there's a lot of execution error that the Storm have here in these fights. You could see that even though Oceans did ult, didn't affect the fight at all. That was kind of just a loss for Chinfu there when he died. Defending that blue buff, sure, it's very good for the Weavers that they aren't losing on that front as well. They're only sacrificing a few early deaths for it, which isn't bad in the terms of the late game, because you can scale past it. A 1-level lead now at level 6 to 7 doesn't translate to a 1-level lead at 10 to 11. So you can swing back into this game, but you need to be very present about who's coming to the next buff.
Well, here you go. Good CC immunity usage by Sops, but through the Cosmos, still there for Dame. Spin to win, not enough, but the dash in follows up the ultimate damage from Joshi. And so the first use of that World Weaver and through the Cosmos, the 1-2 punch, effective. Sops, of course, can use the Apple of Discord for momentary CC immunity. Holds on to the beads after the fact, and potentially a win there for Sops, realizing that death is right around the corner anyway. No need to slam those beads, and a nice pick for the Xibalba Storm. And I've loved what I've seen from Dame in the first few minutes of this game. Very, very active on this Ratatosker, affecting all 3 of the kills.
Yeah, they've picked their pressure point in this blue buff, and you can see this gold lead, you can see this XP lead. It's starting to add up, especially now that this kill that the Storm get on this blue buff spawn comes with the blue buff instead. Chinfu right now kind of has to act quick, right? You're losing your right side jungle. You might be losing your right side lane here as this Guan Yu ultimate doing tons of damage, but Manda Warrior going to get out of that pretty cleanly.
Wow.
And that's kind of the danger of losing so much pressure in this lane. The Guan Yu Delny is going to be very strong, not only in the solo lane laning against tier, but he's also going to be able to swing this into mid sooner rather than later.
Are we at a spot now where Blackthorn is back in the meta? Because think about, God, what was that? Was that end of Season 8 for a while? Was that Season 8 where it was like all Blackthorn all the time?
Oh, yeah. Physical supports.
That's
3
right.
Blackthorns a team.
That's right.
Very, very fun, very interactive.
Is it back? Is Blackthorn back? Was that ever gone?
It hasn't changed too much, right? And the blink, you
That's
gotta,
my favorite ever.
That's respect to what the totems can bring. These trebuchets are strong enough to use your blinks for.
They better get that obelisk now.
Oh,
right?
yeah, they need to. They need to. You can see Big Slim's looking for the suck, as we call it here. It's my first. What? It's not my first. He's gonna try and get the crabs from the enemy team.
He's
the
got
trophies.
a Strauss. You're right. He's gonna plant it in the obelisk. And
yeah, but Dame is now defending. He kind of wasted his time. Big Slim is gonna pay for this, falling very low in the jungle. We see Athena and we see a Freya wrapping around here.
That's right. All right, I've gathered myself, and I can cast a team fight. Hopefully, as the spin to win from Big Slim Timmy Jim only provides a CC immunity. No targets pulled back, and that's another one for the Xibalba Storm. World Weaver used by Joshi as well. Is the one pick enough to pull out this Gold Fury? You wouldn't think at this point in the game. Eyes over to the right side as well, where Mando Warrior yet again down to red HP, a 2-level lead has built up over on the right side of the map. Delny has just been so effective in pushing this wave in, this lane in, and potentially another blue buff invade. But Dame relentless. Diesel being jumped on. And the Valkyrie's discretion just needs a bit more damage, but it's a killing spree for Dame. And already, Billy, we're 9.5 minutes in. This game feeling a bit out of control. Delny finished off the solo kill just a moment ago. And this time, a successful blue buff invade for the Xibalba Storm.
Yeah, this is just very good for the Storm. They're getting a lot of pressure in both their side lanes. They have Rat not only pressuring out the solo lane, but the duo lane here. Delny falling very low. This could be a big swing around for the Weavers. They get 1 kill, make it 2. Chinfu looking strong on the return here against this jungler that's kind of causing the difference in this game.
Yeah, needed that. Needed it if you're the Anansi Weavers. And really, it's all Chinfu right now. 3-1, everyone else at least 0-1, 0-2 in the case of Mando Warrior. A few assists sprinkled elsewhere. So you're 2,500 gold, 3,000 experience. The Xibalba Storm so comfortable. Is this like maybe the most dangerous scenario where the Storm are already ahead anyway, and they've got this style of composition that can force you to fight whether you want to or not, with the Athena, with the Ratatosker, with that World Weaver? Of course, there's still execution, as you mentioned. This has got to be scary territory for the Weavers, where the fight is just continually being brought to you from all over the map.
Yeah, if you're the Weavers right now, you're playing damage control. It's very, you got to find your farm safely, and you got to get it quick. You got to get back out because someone is definitely coming on the way. You can see that there's so much pressure in any lane right now. Most people aren't even pushing up if you're on the Weavers because you're going to wait for it. You're going to take it near under tower. And kind of like what you were saying here, in this solo lane, the Blackthorn Hammer at least kind of prevents itself from being super useful when you fall behind, as Mando Warrior has. It's not going to give him any defense. It's only going to give him so much cooldown. When he falls low enough, he's going to get mana instead. And so it's just going to be a lot of when can I fight, when is safe, and when can we go.
It's a great double Fearless from Mando Warrior, but again, I'm not sure the Weavers in the strongest position to follow up. Looked like a World Weaver aimed for the Xing Chen and did hit Big Slim Timmy Jim for what it's worth, but able to shrug it off. And so now a bit of cooldown time for the Weavers to be without that ultimate out of the mid lane. But Dame Insatiable, it's a stun on a Chinfu, but a good knockback from Mando Warrior only delays the inevitable. Tier doing his best and knocking out maybe the one most important target right now. Chinfu was 3-1, drops to 3-2. And another blue buff invade. Surely Delny doesn't get this one. Yeah, I lied. Two versus 1 on the blue buff invade. Doesn't matter to Delny, who remains 2 levels ahead. And at 3-1, Guan Yu has been all over the map. Should be a Pyromancer here for the Storm. And a relatively easy path forward, provided they can maintain this pace of play.
Yeah, so this is a pretty easy Pyromancer call. You get the pressure off of killing the jungler. So you already have pressure in both mid lane, solo lane. Waves are pushed up. You know that if someone shows up, they're going to be losing a lot of farm. Pull the pyro. There's no real threat of the Weavers doing Gold Fury right there because there was so much pressure in duo lane for Zen. He knew that, hey, ADC is not going to be there to pull it. If you have eyes on mid laner, they're for sure not pulling it. Go ahead, get this because it's on this side of the map. We can swing over to Gold Fury, win this big fight together because Dame is massive right now. Any fight he's in, the Storm should be winning. And anyone you can pick out is just more cake on the plate.
That's right. But Joshi detonated by a few members of the Weavers who make their way mid. The first time we have seen the Neath fall down this game. Diesel has also fallen a couple levels behind. I actually thought it was an okay start earlier on. The Weavers got an early kill onto In My Zen, putting the Freya a bit behind rather. Hasn't been followed up on much. This is going to be a 3 versus 2. Dame, this would be a great shutdown, and Sops able to grab it.
Okay.
But Ocean's being run down as well. Suddenly, the Weavers not on the back foot any further. Could be a 4-kill swing in the last couple of minutes. In My Zen dove and a double kill for Chinfu. And that is fantastic for the Weavers. They even up the kills, and they shrink up that gold lead to 1.5K.
Looking very potent here. Chinfu is kind of bringing it back. Neath did lose that early kind of pressure against the Ratatosker, Dame was able to get over into solo lane, force people to show up to solo lane while he was in duo lane getting kills. But this big swing around in mid really helps not only Chinfu but the rest of the team. We see enhanced buffs on pretty much everyone here on the Weavers. Depending on if Mando can get this buff, good for him. That's enhanced on everyone now. So lots of farm back into this game, lots of options. The kills are even, the gold is right about there. So there's just a lot of potential for team fights. We're back to square one, kind of, if you're the Weavers. You have to play very strong on these neutral camps, on these neutral farms. You can't be giving this up anymore. You have a lot of ability to fight, but like I said, this is a comp for the Storm that gets around quick. They can make fights happen. They can have numbers advantage in the blink of an eye, so you have to be very smart. That mid-fight engage was very strong because Joshi wasn't alive. There was no Neathult risk. You go ahead, walk at red buff. You know when the Freya is rotating, so you take the fight before she shows up, and then you kill her after she shows up. Just very good play.
Big Slim wants to keep things going here. In my Zen tossed back. Extra protections from the Athena ult and a leap in from Diesel. Stun, helpful, and look at the sustain from In My Zen, but Chinfu is here as well. Valkyrie's discretion should be the last bit of safety, but Big Slim, we're going underneath the tower. Chinfu gets the execute on In My Zen. Dame rotates over to duo. That's number one. Big Slim around the corner. Could be the second.
Oh,
a blink forward. Dame, one auto away, but it's given to Joshi. And a 2-for-1 trade favors the Xibalba Storm on left.
So not only in these fights do you have to be very cautious about where you decide to take the fights, but you also have to be very cautious for how long these fights are going on, because it's not only do you have to have the threat of they're starting a fight on us with these global ultimates, but they're also wrapping around. Dame is coming up very quickly. Joshi has an ult sent as soon as the fight was ready for it. It's very quick turnaround time for the Xibalba Storm to not only start a fight, but also to appear in a fight. So if you're the Weavers, I still think that was a very good trade-off fight. You're getting more XP back on who matters. Chinfu's now 7-2.
My goodness.
I hate to say win condition, but right now he is the pressure condition at least. Fights around Chinfu, team fights around Chinfu, and farm around Chinfu is very high priority for the Weavers. You have to make sure that this is where the team is kind of playing around right now. It's very important that you take the fights with Chinfu and then not only get him out, but get yourself out as soon as possible, because as we saw in that duo lane, it doesn't take long for the Storm to come thundering down.
I'm sure Chinfu's feeling just fine being the pressure condition right now. If you're a player on the Anansi Weavers, maybe you'd love one of your carries to be 7-2. Do you think Naja at a point right now that the Weavers can really lean on a 7-2 Naja? Is that a viable opportunity up against what the Storm have to really keep themselves in this game?
So Naja kind of brings flexibility, is what makes Naja very strong. There's a lot of ability to now get in there, get Joshi's beads, and not spend much. Big Slim is going to go ahead and take that for a ride. Big damage coming out. That's one for Sops, and I think that just might be the end of it.
Yeah, fantastic timing on my question there as Chinfu rotates to mid, sashes one, and then good combo with Big Slim. Timmy Jim sends Joshi right on back. Unfortunately, has been a decent amount of pressure on this Neath. In My Zen has fallen a few times here as well. Pyromancer up. Fantastic opportunity for the Anansi Weavers to pull back a bit more of this gold. Just a 400 or so lead now for the Storm, but Delny's so strong. Still 2 levels ahead of Mando Warrior. Highest level in the game, and the Xibalba Storm steal away the Pyromancer. The fight after the fact, not guaranteed either through the Cosmos. Could be for Sops. Instead, it's for Diesel, and Diesel learns the hard way how much damage Dame can really do. Now, In My Zen can swing as well. It has gone terribly for the Anansi Weavers. You lose the Pyromancer. A World Weaver from base gives a kill to Joshi. And scattered to the wind are the Anansi Weavers. A 4-for-none and a Pyromancer for the Storm.
So it was just really unfortunate. That was a good decision for the Weavers. Pull that Pyromancer, but just you got to make sure you secure it. You lost it to a Guan Yu 2, which doesn't do the most damage, I'll be honest, compared to a Discordia, compared to how he auto attacks, Ricochet, stuff like that. There was a lot of ability for the Weavers to secure. Instead, they not only lose Pyro, they lose 4, and they lose Fire on top of it. Very tough turnaround here. You need to be playing through what you can, and you just had to secure it. You don't secure it, okay, let's get out, and they just weren't ready to lose it. They were expecting to get it. They weren't expecting to have to waste cooldowns to bail themselves out of dodge, and it's just very strong for the Storm. They have so much chase down. You saw after Ho-Yi jumped, Diesel got away from that main engage, but Dame went up to the skies, or not to the skies at least in this sense, but onto a tree branch.
I suppose.
Hopped around a few more branches, landed, got him, got some actives, and got very active in the Weaver's backline, which is a lot, especially when you use so much movement and you're already spaced so far away. You have to be able to commit. You have to be able to either take the fight or get out before it gets worse.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned it earlier. It's just that sudden potential of the Storm. You've got to be careful with how sudden a team fight can break out. That's tough for the Weavers because after a really difficult start to this game, they had brought it back very nicely, effectively tied things up, and maybe saw an opportunity after a pick onto Joshi to extend their first lead of the game. And now we're right back to square one for the Weavers, where you're heavily behind, and there's a Fire Giant, and there are Oni minions pushing down. A few towers still left on the map. Left side Phoenix open. It's a Trebuchet over there. If you're the Weavers at this point, Billy, are you drawing the line at some tier 2s? You're considering a soft defense, or is Phoenix line your home?
Right now we got to be very grouped up. If I'm on the Weavers squad, you have to decide, are we taking the honestly, I'm giving up every tier 2. There's only 2, well now 1 left. Give someone farm in left lane while we know that the Storm are in right lane. It's a lot of freedom to at least take that wave. I think Mando getting there and getting a bit more tankiness is very strong. The way you defend, if you are the Weavers, is using Chinfu as a facilitator. One of Najah's strong suits is that there is that flexibility in what he can do. The sash in can get beads. You can ult back out, have enough protections to live if you ult in and miss. There's a lot of ability for the Weavers through Chinfu to set up a good defense. You have to make sure that you're ready to follow up on whatever he can provide.
Yep.
Be very strong on these defenses. I think Discord is a very good god to defend these sieges, at least because of her wave clear. There's a lot of ability to poke out and do damage from afar. If you're the Weavers, you can't step too far forward, sure, against the Neef and the Freya, but there's a lot of close distance. The Storm kind of have to bring everyone into a Phoenix line to actually get the Phoenix, as opposed to the Weavers, who can play pretty far back. Big Slim can go in and make some space on that Phoenix line. Mandalorian can do the very same. That's why they're probably giving him a bit more farm to get that tankiness up so he can live to do that.
Yep.
And you just need to play through what damage you have, play through the follow-up off of CC that you get, and it should go well for the Weavers, at least on this first Fire Giant. We're only 20 minutes in. It's pretty good looking for the Weavers if they can play at least fundamentally safe and sound.
Unfortunately for the Weavers, the Storm were able to go back, spend up all of that gold. So remember, it's team fight, Pyromancer, Fire Giant, and like 4 towers worth of gold to everyone on the Xibalba Storm. I saw Heartseeker get purchased by Joshi. Needs a little bit of help. Bottom damage in the game right now. You're not getting away with that, Joshi. I'm going to call you out. In a 13, that's what I'm saying. You're dropping Neathelt on someone. You're doing, maybe that might be all the damage at this point.
Yeah,
to be fair
maybe.
to Joshi,
It's working.
Dove on a lot in mid, and it has worked as of this point. Like that last big fight, Joshi was like respawning and just sent an ult forward. So it happens.
And the CC, I think, on Neath ult is actually pretty overlooked, mainly because it's just out of nowhere. You have to prepare to get CC'd, or you have to have a tank be prepared to step up and take that CC in the middle of a fight.
That's right, it's a mental game.
Half the time, it's I don't even want to get rooted if I'm a tank. You know, that could be, I could die.
No,
you can take it. You can take it. I'm not getting rooted for a few seconds here. What are you, crazy?
Of course. So Joshi's playing the mental game right now. We're less worried about player damage, more worried about sending a message. And that's how we'll spin this one. Diesel, we need to see a bit more out of the Weavers ADC as well, only above the aforementioned Joshi and Oceans on the Athena. Well underway in that build, so has the potential to shred down some of these targets. Like I said a moment ago, I mean, Heartseeker finished by Joshi. Obsidian Shard for MI Zen was the full purchase after that last big swing. Dame in such a strong spot now with the Titan's Bane. And he'll have the bubble around himself as well.
Uh-oh, Mando.
Yeah, Mando, look, thing is, you want to say, right? You want to be able to say, all right, do we defend the Fire? Do we defend the Phoenix? Mando getting caught here, although mobile on the tier.
Look at dueling. As soon as they saw Mando get collapsed on, they stopped their backs. They said, we're pushing this wave in. Mando's, if he's dying, he's taking these waves with him. And you're going as far away from this Fire Giant as possible.
Probably smart. Here.
Playing time, playing farm. I think the Weavers did smartly agree to give up this Fire Giant. good play. You die if you try and contest this. You don't have a lot of steal potential. Get the farm up while you can. Very smart. Mando got waves. Diesel and Big Slim got waves, and they get towers. They are getting gold out of it, and they're hitting level 20s, which makes their defense a little stronger. And Fire Giant hasn't been enhanced. It's only 24 minutes, so it's about the same kind of damage and at least bonus that you're getting from Fire. Sure, the items may have changed for the Storm. Got some more damage through that, but it's a bit better. It's a bit better. Weavers are looking at least at the top of their form for this specific situation. This defense is very possible and could lead to some good things.
Well, it's going to be an immediate grouping towards the Primal Fury for the Xibalba Storm. I like the call there from the Storm, although it's a decent moment for the Weavers to get some farm on the map to just not chase the tier. Let's not worry about it.
Oh, you're not chasing the tier too far.
We're going back, and we're getting Fire Giant and Primal Fury. So you'd imagine left side would be the first look here for the Xibalba Storm, unless a split on the mind. You could send Dame over towards mid. With that mobility, you can easily get to the left side Phoenix if you want to rejoin one of these fights. Some important power spikes have been hit. Hidden Blade finally for Joshi.
That damage is going massive in this fight.
Joshi did literally exactly 1,000 damage to...
oh, yeah.
No, it might have been like 1,003 or something, because it was 4,100 a second ago, and now it's 5,107. So Joshi did just about 1,000 damage a moment ago. Doesn't matter. We've reached late game. Neath build. The damage from this point on will be hefty. The left side Phoenix may be an afterthought for the Storm. Just a couple more auto attacks needed. But the wave dealt with well by the Anansi Weavers. All 10 ultimates ready to go, and everyone's relics awaiting around the corner as well. Weavers might just have to hold their breath and see if the Storm suddenly dive in.
Very smart for the Storm. Watch when they engage. Is it going to be off of the fight in mid lane, or is it going to be just off of this wave? They're going to get the bird, and then they're going to get the fight. They should be taking one at a time, because if they take more, they might be biting off more than they can chew.
It's a smart engage on the back from Mando Warrior. Chunks down in my Zen, forces the Valkyrie's discretion. But the left side Phoenix taken. Dash in from Oceans. No time to Strife. Onto the Athena, but that is so tanky. The Apple onto one. But Oceans maintains over half of their HP. A lot of ultimates expended here. You're not going to need that Athena ultimate much just now. And Delny, the cavalry charge could make something happen. So a costly left side bird, but the Phoenix falls nonetheless.
Ratatosker did use their ultimate. They're going to get taken up by Chinfu, actually. It's going to fall very low. Dame is just one shot, but the Athena ult will save him with the protections. Chinfu is around the corner and will just slice that slashing sash through Oceans, getting the kill and wrapping up what will be this Phoenix siege in mid. The Storm going ahead and walking away from this one. Smart decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got a minute left on your Fire Giant buff. And you called it pretty well. You said it's not actually a horrible defense by the Weavers just because of the way the Storm have to play the game. You have to be very in your face, and Dame, unfortunately, didn't have the ultimate. And only the second death of the game, but it's an impactful one. Oh no, what you can't do now is just hand a kill. Right back to the Xibalba Storm. You have evened the score, and when you're this far behind, being even
watch this.
Is behind. Diesel chunked down to half HP by the Neath ultimate. Sops in the stealth. But Delny's got the double stun and a double taunt from Oceans as well. Might just finish things off here. That is brutal. The Weavers, they had an opening, but that opening closed immediately. In my Zen simply swinging away. 1, 2, and 3 from In my Zen. And that'll be a 3-kill turnaround.
Well, more like 1, 2, and 4.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 4.
You gotta give it a little respect to the
sound as
Jukes.
good.
No, it doesn't. But that's just the Weavers being a little too aggressive. They get one kill, but you can't chase out of Phoenix. You got to make sure your base is healthy, defendable, or else you're going to suffer pretty severely in that fight. You have 2 alive, so I don't know if this is the end of the game quite yet, but this Phoenix is suffering pretty hard because of it. Zen is around to do some damage. We're getting some waves in, and as 2 people, especially as a jungle and support, you can only make so much space and create so much time until you either get turned on or your Phoenix does.
Delny in. Manda Warriors respawn, but Big Slim Timmy Jim's got to go back to the fountain. No mana, very low HP for Delny. An ult out, but no, Chinfu was chasing in a pick on the back end for the Xibalba Storm. A bit messy on the defense there for the Anansi Weavers. You lose your left and mid Phoenix. Wouldn't you guess it? Fire Giant back up in 10 or so seconds. And it looks like the name of the game remains the same for the Xibalba Storm. Should have a pretty sizable advantage going into this next Fire Giant. Fire waves pouring down. Oh, I don't even see the right side. Phoenix also got taken down at some point there.
Josh, you went ahead and took that while
we're in dire
straits
straits now for the Anansi Weavers. You're hoping your full-on Titan defense stands up against what could be, if delayed, an enhanced Fire Giant.
Yeah, what I would do right now if I'm the Weavers is just stick as 5, take fights 5-on-5, reduce that kind of usefulness of the global presence of the Storm, and just take the fight to them.
It's weird, Billy. You didn't say get picked outside of our base on the right-hand side. Because if you did, they'd be playing the game perfectly, but it's not what you mentioned. And unfortunately for Sops, I would say costly. I mean, likely this Fire Giant's going down anyway, and see if the Storm delay it for 10 seconds. They should, especially if you have Delny out, separating the Weavers away. So it will be an enhanced Fire Giant to the Xibalba Storm. With 30 seconds still remaining on Sops, you can head on left if you want to get that Phoenix upon respawn. Maybe if you're the Storm on the flip side, Billy, you just force a fight here if you're feeling confident enough.
Yeah, so what the Storm were doing, they were holding the Fire Giant at 30 minutes. It will switch to Enhanced Fire Giant regardless of its HP, so it's a little weaker in the normal state. Get it low, wait for 30 minutes to pop the Enhanced, get it, and it is so much stronger than Fire Giant because you can quite literally walk in as 5, as you were saying. They're probably just going to go ahead and start swinging the Storm here, and they will probably get something good.
You would think, but Dame a bit on his own. There is finally the combo between the Athena and the Ratatosker, but good damage out from Sop. Sends Dame back in my Zen, full HP, and puts Mando to 0. 5 now in the Titan room. Some respawns through. That's Sop's back on the map. So slow, drawn-out siege here. The sustain from the Enhanced Fire Giant will help Dame stick around a bit longer. Chinfu's gone back in. Gets one with the Windfire Wheels. It's Joshi who will crash back down to Earth, but Joshi lives on the backflip. In my Zen with a couple of kills now in this fight, and Delny continuing to run the front line. The taunt back from Ocean slows down what Diesel's able to do. Then up and over for a double kill now for Zen, and maybe 3 overall, just a delayed triple. A beautiful strife, but what does it matter? The Xibalba Storm simply have numbers. They have too much pressure with the Enhanced Fire Giant, and the Xibalba Storm will take game number 1.
Just playing with it a bit too much. That Weaver's push-up wasn't as quite egregious as the last one that suffered so much of a loss for the team in total, but they were trying to push up, get these waves cleared, and unfortunately you not only forgot to clear the waves, but you forgot to get the kills on the way. The Storm go ahead, turn around, get some kills, and walk right back in to end the game, get the Titan, and get the game won.
And look, that's a great turnaround from the Weavers. I'm thinking about how the start of that game was all Storm. Dame on a warpath in the first 5 to 10 minutes of that game. It was like a 3,000-4,000 gold lead for the Storm. Weavers, a few picks to bring it back. Felt like a real opportunity for the Weavers. Does it all go wrong in your eyes around that Pyromancer? They get it stolen away, lose the fight after that. Is that really where this game goes sideways?
The biggest thing for the Weavers there is that they just had too much confidence going in when they probably were on the upswing for sure, but they just had too much, at least step up, too much posture in the enemy space. There was so much ability to get turned around on that they weren't ready for. And props to the Storm, because every time the opportunity was there to get the turnaround, to get the chase out, they went for it and they got it, and just kind of punished the Weavers for being a bit too happy with what they were getting.
Well, the Storm play their composition wonderfully, but a chance for the Weavers to turn this one around. Game number 2 between the Weavers and the Storm coming up next. And we're back after game number 1 and the Xibalba Storm able to take things and get. We held our hands up for far too long there. My shoulder nearly gave out on me. And that was only
Really?
about 10 seconds.
That bad?
Yeah, my lower back hurts.
Oh,
my
no.
eyes are shaky. My shoulder is thrown out.
Knees are weak.
Arms are heavy. Arms are heavy when you're holding them up like that. And I'm 27 years old, so I don't know what this says for me and the future of my bones.
Getting very existential this morning, huh?
Yes, let's talk about that. No, let's talk about game number 1 between the Storm and the Weavers, where the Storm, Billy, off to a miraculous start there. The style of composition they went for, no surprise. We figured at level 5 there would kind of be the surge in action. Weavers unable to keep up. A bit of a fumble in the mid-game, but ultimately the style of play for the Storm remained the same from minute 1 until the end of the game, and they were able to make it work.
Yeah, the early game for the Storm was very decisive. They knew what they wanted, and they went for it. Dame on the Ratatosker came up to almost every blue buff past that very first one and helped Downey get so much pressure that you could just outright solo Mando Warrior in lane. That not only swung over to mid lane, that swung over to dual lane. Just so much pressure provided by this Rat in the early game. In that mid game, sure, there was that swing around for the Weavers, looked very good, and were picking their fights wisely. But this pressure, this global ability from the Storm really strung true in the late game when you could have fights start in left lane, swing out to mid lane, and you had ult after ult after ult swinging down under these Phoenix lines, at these Phoenix lines, making these fights happen, and more importantly, making these picks happen, because it wasn't necessarily just this global ability, but it was the mobility of all these gods to get in, blink in, get past, and Dame specifically getting kills on Sops, getting kills on Diesel that were just out of position for a few seconds. They got punished for it almost instantly.
A combined 2 and 9 for the 2 carries of the Weavers. Chinfu, the only one really getting things going there for the Weavers at 23,000 damage. Not far behind was Sops at 19, but I think Delny also deserves big shout-outs for the Guan Yu performance there. As you had mentioned, really controlled the right side of the map. Blue buff invades effectively on cooldown. And that just seems like the style of play that the Storm enjoy, right? From the Fun Havers days, some changes in the roster, even now up onto the Storm, who have had some roster changes as well. Maintain the ability to have fun. Picks and bans for game number 2 give us a good indication of what the Storm are going for. If you're the Weavers, though, I don't know what pieces of that I'm banning out, because there's so many different picks that can play that style of game. You feel like you need to take away something like the Neath? Do you need to take away the Athena? I mean, are you fully banning out any of those individual picks? Personally,
I'm taking the Ratatosker out specifically.
Yeah.
I think that one was just way too prevalent in pretty much every lane, every team fight. There was Ratatosker. The Athena, the Guan Yu is the choice for the Weavers, which I don't think is a bad one, but you have to be very certain about what's going to be happening in the jungle. Where are we putting pressure, and what are these picks going to mean in terms of securing our buffs?
Yeah.
And it looks like it's just going to go ahead and be Ratatosker this time for the Weavers.
Yeah, I think if you're not going to ban it out, you're picking it for yourself for sure. And 100% banned out up until game number 1 was this Ratatosker. It's something that the Dame has looked good on in the past. Continued to look good on there in game number 1. So it'll be different for the Storm out of the jungle, but again, still opportunity to play that style of game without the Ratatosker specifically. Freya plus Ymir, so dual lane dealt with now for the Xibalba Storm. Freya, Ymir, is that a formidable duo lane? Is your mind just keeping Freya alive in the first few levels of the game?
Ymir's very strong at getting that pressure in the early in lieu of having a Freya ADC who isn't known for getting that level 1, that level 2 pressure. Picking Ymir, you get a 6-second cooldown just about on your 2, the Ice Carpet, so you have so much damage. You have the Frostbite passive, which makes your auto attack stronger. You just have a lot of ability to not necessarily keep Freya safe from dive at the early stages, but you have enough potential to just force it forward, force your ADC to just get in your backpack and get carried by the pressure a little early.
All right, so you won't go Athena either, as we've already mentioned. It's Ymir for the Storm. So less global pressure already between Ratatosker being gone and remaining to be seen what Dame will play out of the jungle, and Ymir instead of Athena. But you stick with the Neath, so you're going to have that level 5 power spike World Weaver across the map. Did plenty in setting up pressure for the Xibalba Storm in game number 1. On the flip side, talking about getting pressure in the duo lane, Xing Chen, maybe something to be said there, but really the Uller. Billy, do you think that this is the Weavers leaning into, okay, we've got a Freya in this lane, we tried to shut down Zen in game 1. Let's really put the heat on here with Anula in the duo.
Yeah, I think it was a very well thought out picks and bans, at least in this first phase from the Weavers.
How
The
about
Jing
now?
Chen. Oh.
How about now? Still well thought out?
So the Jing Chen was picked up expecting that Neath mid off of having the Freya ADC. We knew that was coming, so let's pick Jing Chen. It worked really well. This Ao Kuang lock, however, for the jungle, assuredly for Chinfu, has not looked great in the past. The real issue with Ao Kuang, at least in this kind of setting, is that it doesn't have a lot of kind of engage, a lot of priority, a lot of onus on that pick to make a fight happen, to make a start happen. You saw in the Naja was really where Chinfu was looking strong. Fights dictated around where he was sashing, where he was ulting. Ratatosker going into the solo lane. I'm assuming Ao Kuang in the jungle here for Chinfu means that we have a pretty weak jungler, but pretty strong side lanes. You don't have someone to really take advantage of where we're going with that, at least.
Scale potential for both of these two teams. Xibalba Storm with a 1-0 lead going into game number 2. Joshi, as mentioned, still on that Neath mid, so keep your eyes on level 5. Sops, of course, with the Stinger. Very, very strong there as well. Potentially the final game between these two squads. Remember, very important. The Weavers don't want to fall to 0-2 to start off. The Storm would love to increase to 2-0 and match the top of the North American SEC standings. Are going to get messy. They were last phase. They will be this phase, I imagine, in the NASEC as well. So every win matters. Dame is going to find his way onto the Pele here this game. Less global presence than the Ratatosker, but maybe Billy still the ability to stay aggressive early on in the game.
Yeah, I like Pele right now. She's in a very good spot, at least in terms of items. The Crusher, the Jotun's Wrath early gives her a lot of damage, a lot of ability to, well, spam her abilities, get active in any lane. I think eyes on Mando Warrior, this Ratatosker early is going to suffer the potential threat of getting a lot of Pele action. In mid lane, Ao Kuang is very susceptible to getting CC'd and just dying instantaneously. Technically, still a mage being played in the jungle, theoretically, for Chinfu here. So there's a lot of big burst potential. We're going to go ahead and get pressure on this right side, and Pele just has a lot of mobility as well. Ults in fights can really chase out. Add the Neath ult into that, add maybe a Ymir wall to close off any escape options, and we're looking really good if you're Dame here.
All right, so Zen, last game, despite having some pressure put on, was still, of course, able to get to that full build mark, and Freya just absolutely swings. On the other side of the jungle, I bring up Freya because in the past we've seen ring style of builds on the Ao Kuang. Do you think there's a similar need for scaling for this Ao Kuang? Do you think Chinfu can match the pressure of a Pele in the first handful of minutes of this game?
Yeah, I think the at least priority in the jungle will definitely always go to this Pele. Just has so much potential to not only clear waves, but clear camps, make it to your camps, fight you there, what have you. Ao Kuang kind of does need some power, some items to get online. I think the real rise of Ao Kuang kind of comes along when you get Bancroft's Claw, Bancroft's Talon, the upgrade into that. It's a lot of adds a lot of lifesteal and a lot of power into your fight, and adds a lot more kind of kill ability, kill prio on anyone you have in lane. With the AMC mid, you still have a good amount. Anyone you stinger is going to be very low. I think that's going to be the game plan here for the Weavers, is to have Sops start a fight with Big Slim on the Jing Chen, probably force something on Neath, force something on Freya, get some big damage out, get these executes, and at least try to do what you can to at least get your presence in every lane a little bit more than last. But it's going to be very hard because on Ao Kuang, you don't get to make mistakes that often, right? You make one little mistake, you're down 2 levels. You are kind of just out of the game until you can farm back into it, and that's going to be very rough, especially with the success we saw from Dame last game. He has the ability to get in, get out, and make those leads count.
Agreed. Now, if Chinfu is able to have a similar start and game, you're feeling real good on an Ao Kuang if you're going.
If you're 7-3, big time.
7-3, whatever, 8-2, whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, Chinfu's feeling just fine at that point. Now, getting there,
whole different
a whole different story. So we're going to start hitting level 5 here shortly. That's when we've talked about Joshi having the ability to impact the map. CC immunity was inherent in a few of the members of the Anansi Weavers last game up against this World Weaver. A couple of options between Mando Warrior, Big Slim, Timmy Jim, of course. But then 3 sets of beads on the other 3 members. of the Weavers. If you're Josh here, are you just letting this arrow fly in one lane in particular? Do you think some area of the map is most susceptible to pressure from the Xibalba Storm in the next couple of minutes?
So in the next couple of minutes, not really. The only time it would get a lot of utilization is if we're playing like last game. We're pressuring out blue buff perhaps. We're getting some big damage through a specific target. Ao Kuang is very weak to having his jungle invaded. You can see on the minimap right now, those backs are being looked at. You're getting timers on blue buffs. Any fight that shows up, Joshy can look at, but you're kind of saving. You want your items online. Transcendence is more than likely going to be the first item here, only at Charged Morningstar at the current moment, so it's not even going to do a whole lot of damage in its current state. You're mainly using that to just get a little bit more if a fight's already going your way.
Oh, invade indeed. The Xibalba Storm send pressure to the blue buff. Yeah, Chinfu's body language there, I think, tells you about all you need to know. Steps up.
Yeah. So fun with just speed buff, you know, have fun.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to my own speed buff. Beads used a bit late by Diesel. Wall forces the Uller out and around. So, yes, you pick that Uller, and this is a good chance for Delny. Mando has through the Cosmos, so should be fine and return some good damage. So you pick this Uller, hoping to grab some pressure over in dual lane, but Zen and Ocean's able to maintain level parity. Everyone at level 5 over on the left of the map. You considering it a failure if Diesel leaves the laning phase even in levels within Zen, or are you okay with just keeping pace with this Freya?
I think keeping pace is fine. Pressure is kind of dictated not necessarily by picks, more so than numbers, right? So if Oceans is there sitting on Zen a good bit, then surely you're going to lose pressure regardless of what pick you have.
Fair.
Because there's just so much ability to die, so much CC, so much damage that could come through.
Could be the first fight of the game. Double freeze from Oceans. But the first big rotation out from Mando Warrior. All eyes on this Ymir. Chinfu, half HP. Oceans getting low as well. But Med pulsing through and a double toss back from Big Slim Timmy Jim. But how? How have no kills fallen? That'll be the first for Chinfu and the execute. And miraculous turnaround now as the CC heavy team fight ends up as a 1-for-1. Tanky already is this Ymir. Took the execute from Chinfu to confirm the kill, but it's first blood to the Weavers and an answer back from the Storm.
Yeah, that's just a testament to meditation, how much that can do. Not only can that prevent someone in the late game from getting executed, that healing putting you above the threshold that Ao Kuang needs you to be in to actually get that execute off. Otherwise, it will just throw you up. So just kind of the dangers of playing Ymir. I mean, we saw Neil go 0-1,000, I think, approximately last.
It was very close, yes.
Just yesterday. So it's not like dying is too much of a bad thing for Ymir, but you will get caught out a lot, like, say, defending a blue buff you shouldn't be. Stuff like that.
What even happened?
King Arthur damage, man.
My goodness. That was
So
a 2 versus 1.
This is about to be a 1v. Oceans wins this.
You think, yeah, Oceans has the...
You jump, he's going to put a wall in your face. You can't jump right now. Oh, he's going to go ahead and call the bluff.
Unlucky for Oceans. Well played by Oceans, though. Loved the idea. Delny's had a set and a half in just a game point 1 of another game getting played. Fantastic on the Guan Yu. And great on the King Arthur so far. A solo kill in the face of Chinfu and Mando Warrior. And that is like, you said, on an Ao Kuang, it's easy to get your camps invaded, just like right in front of your face. That's about as bad as it gets. I mean, literally
Very
in the
bad.
face of Chinfu, he's just sitting there while his solo laner gets soloed by Delny, drops the blue buff, 2-level lead for the King Arthur as well. I'm thinking not many solo laners I'd want to face 3 levels ahead of my solo laner less than a King Arthur, especially when Delny's playing it the way he is.
Yeah, the main reason why that was so successful for Delny, not only was Mando kind of falling behind in that game, but if you look at his build, when he died, he didn't have this tier 3 Acorn. He had the tier 2 Acorn. He had the spiked gauntlet there, which provides a little bit of power, a little bit of lifesteal. So there was no defense. There was nothing really going for him in terms of even securing it. He was dying to blue buff near most, right? Delny having the Mail of Renewal means he's, 1, not dying, and 2, very strong, just like Dame is here in this fight.
My goodness. Sops, see you later. No beads and AMC, not a good combo. Dame will dash away. The wall from Oceans
Okay.
actually saves himself there. on the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and a double freeze into the Whoop. It's all going the way of the Xibalba Storm. What a way to combo with your support. Oceans has had a fantastic game already on this Ymir. Just a couple of assists, but the walls and the freezes feels like have been multis more often than not. Yeah, 2.5k gold, but Billy, 4.7 thousand experience. A lot of that, granted, over in the solo lane with 3 levels ahead for Delny, but every lane, every role on the map right now, ahead in experience for the Xibalba Storm. I suppose if you're the Weavers, you're hoping that your composition scales nicely because the early game's not looking great.
Yeah, so if you are on the Weavers, you have this very kind of detrimental almost experience gap for pretty much all of your players. You need to find out where the least amount of that is and where you can kind of scale into it the most. Diesel, playing off of these purple buffs, should he lose these, is probably going to fall too far behind this Fred to kind of contest. At this point, I'm sacrificing solo lane. We're saying, Mando, confirm whatever farm you can, do what you can, pull attention, pull whatever you can, and maybe you won't die this time, but...
Maybe you will.
Oh, okay.
Boo, Joshy, boo. That's unfair. He just sends the World Weaver over. That's unsporting-like, but gets the kill nonetheless. And unfortunate for Mando Warrior. Mando could be 4 levels behind by the time the respawn rolls out. Delny goes back to base. Full buys a Glad Shield, teleports back into lane, and we'll get a full wave of experience. And that tier 1 over on right is going to crash down shortly here. This has got to be difficult for Chinfu as well. I mean, the 1 kill, yes, on the Ao Kuang. You got the execute earlier on, but nowhere on the map maybe feels comfortable to you right now. Has to dash away. Delny is just controlling the right side. I wonder how far in we're going to look for Chinfu here.
This still doesn't look great for this Storm. Lots of damage, lots of CC. Dame will go ahead and set up one for Delny. It looks like it might be 2.
That's a good wall from Oceans yet again on the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel from Big Slim Timmy Jim. Delny is absolutely insatiable right now. The hunger for more on this King Arthur puts him at 3-0, and net worth charts give you a good indicator of the way this game is going. Only Oceans down beneath the Anansi Weavers. All other 4 members of the Xibalba Storm ahead of everyone on the Weavers. And so, I mean, you're at 11 minutes in. You gotta think you're at a point, yeah, you're gonna pull out an early Pyromancer. Weavers got to be very, very careful what kinds of fights they try to pull back. You could argue maybe an insta Gold Fury pull, but the Weaver's not feeling comfortable. And this is where the real slow burn can start to build up if the Storm feel like they can do no wrong on the map.
Yeah, the big issue for Gold at least was you didn't have pressure. Oh my goodness. No, dude.
Oh no!
Come on, Delny.
Delny's having a hell of a game. This is unbelievable. When was the last, I don't know the last time I've seen a solo lane chasm in the same way that I've seen in specifically game number 2. He's 4-0. He's 5 levels ahead. It's 5 levels. Mando is behind XP to Oceans. This is brutal. It's level 14 at 12 minutes for Delny.
It's not going to get better for a good bit. And I hate to sound like that, but the way Mando's building, right, he's going into Soul Eater now. He is 12 minutes, finally got his first real item outside of the Acorn, which is Soul Eater. Takes 100 stacks to get to being a full Soul Eater. On the other side, you look at Delny. He has HP, he has the Mail of Renewal, and he has Glad Shield, which is one of King Arthur's most utilizable items in terms of a passive. So he has just so much pressure here. You can see Chinfu finally kind of trying to flip the map at least, going for this purple buff. He does get the ultimate out of Zen, so this could look to be an invade. Just have to be very careful about either what's happening on the other side of the map or what's coming to this side if you're on the Weavers.
Up goes Mando. I mean, look.
This is smart. This is smart.
Right.
Getting away from the guy that's killing you and getting some farm in the meantime. Yeah. Not a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the best you can do. Dame, 3v1.
Okay.
Still not far enough ahead to run away with a 3v1. Needed for the Weavers there. Just to see one go in. You know what I mean? You got to remind yourself that you can at least grab a kill at some point. And Mando,
he's getting farm where he can.
Yeah, he is. I mean, doesn't have through the Cosmos. I wonder if Delny can close that gap.
Nah, this back's gonna get off.
Yep, he gets back. Okay, so he's fine. Would have been scary for Mando there, and so well played.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, look, on the other side of the map, it doesn't look much better. With Zen with a couple of rings swinging away at Diesel. And this Freya has been able to farm up quite nicely to this point here in this game. So the Xibalba Storm put together another great early game here, transitioning into the mid game. Really what you're trying to avoid now, if you're the Storm, I suppose, is what happened in game one, where you kind of drop the ball a bit, you overextend, you get a bit too excited about the gold lead you've built up. Happened to Dame just once already. Maybe this next big gold fury, the first time for the Weavers to either find a response or maybe just give it up.
Yeah,
they're gonna give it up.
It's gonna be given up. Delny, you can't fight around him right now. If you're on the Weavers, that is avoid at all costs. This guy, patient 0 for death at the least. You know, he is bringing it. Yeah. So they're doing gold short. Invade the speed buff. That is a bit crazy, right? But with this coordination, with this like time sync, at least as 5 players, you know where you can be, you know where you can't be. You get this buff, you try to get out. You might be able to shred them down and maybe get an execute, but it's not looking good if more of the Storm show up. Oh
no, Delny is swinging away. Blue buff gets dropped. And out go the Weavers. Storm on the chase, but haven't seen a World Weaver fly through in a little bit of time. Joshy has held on to that ultimate. Mando could be in a rough spot, though, as threw the Cosmos down. Dashes away. All right, so enough mobility on the Ratatosker to end up staying alive. But the chase is on, and this is where the Xibalba Storm are their scariest, when they just have their eyes on a target, especially when it's Delny. Who's just going to chase down a few. But now, see, this is the moment where the Xibalba Storm have disengaged, and it's Delny left alone. And this is a good shutdown if the Weavers are able to get it. Stun onto Chinfu, dash forward, but the Storm have turned back around. And the cleave damage simply too massive. Oceans finds the first. Big Slim Timmy Jim takes the World Weaver. It doesn't end up dying on the back end of the fight. Diesel might be the sacrifice wall, just short by Oceans. And after all that, 2 red tier health bars. The Xibalba Storm just get one in what was otherwise a scary moment.
So it's a bit of the last game kind of shining through in this game too for the Weavers right now. Trying to bite off more than you can chew. You look at what Chinfu can do, at least in Shred, and it is so much when you can't really get in and get those auto attacks onto Delny. He's spinning around, he's running around, he's dashing through. He has so many abilities as King Arthur. He's able to make enough space to allow the rest of his team, Dame, Oceans, maybe even Zen, showing up to a fight while using Delny as bait. Means that a lot of cooldowns are down for the Weavers, just like the life is for Chinfu. Getting caught out of position in that stealth is only so good when you are getting hit.
Billy, this is a near 10,000 gold lead at the 16.5-minute mark. I think saying the Storm are comfortable with the pace of this game is a bit of an understatement. Now, I heard you coaching up the hi-rez team going up against, and I'll hold this thought because an actual 16-minute Fire Giant is happening. And it is happening. The Xibalba Storm have plenty of damage to get this one done, and everyone is on the map to benefit. So it'll be Fire Giant at shy of 17 minutes for the Xibalba Storm, usually an indicator of a game that's gone sideways. Now, I heard you coaching up the hi-rez team as they were about to play the pros.
Yeah.
Is that what this game, are you feeling like, you think the Weavers are in that type of scenario here, like that lopsided of a fight? Do they need Billy in there telling them how to get back into this game?
So to add a little bit more fuel to the flame that is my ego, I also coached the UIUC SMITE team as they won AVGL whenever ago, I think a year ago at this point. So I do have some coaching history. I'm kind of smart when it comes to SMITE game.
Right. Every once in a while, sure.
Is this a player versus player difference that was kind of prevalent in hi-rez versus pros? No. Is this, wow, Delny is absolutely massive, and we need to adjust our game plan accordingly?
Oh, my God.
Yes. The step one is perhaps not fighting Delny, I think, is a really good one, especially without too much
that's
defense.
So hard, because you can't just, like,
run away.
You can't just leave that entire side of the map open, right? Somebody's got to step up to him eventually, and then you got a World Weaver from Joshy that makes you pay. Dame is also made a nice lead happen. It's become 3 levels in the jungle.
Oh, Delny's going to go massive.
Over in solo. Dame will not die either. Stinger connects, but what does it matter, you know? Time's a flat circle. It's life is gray for the Anansi Weavers right now. What does it matter?
Oh no, don't bring him closer.
Yeah, right. We're under a Phoenix, but I'm not sure Delny cares. Should, because that Phoenix hurts. Left side Phoenix down at 18.5 minutes. Delny might die. Delny,
Nope,
sound the
he's
alarms.
not.
Sound them. No, there's not enough damage. Kill Delny. Well, Delny will stay at 6-0. This is brutal. Yeah, you can't siege the Phoenix yet, squad. You got to go back to the Tier 2 tower. Is 18 minutes. The fastest Phoenix you've ever seen in a competitive game of Smite, a minor league or SPL game?
In professional to SML, SCC, SPL,
Yeah.
I do believe so.
Fastest I can remember.
AVGL no, but that's a whole different
Have you
story.
gotten a Phoenix
We-
faster than 18 minutes?
Yeah, we made in the AVGL. It was all right. Which lane is winning? Duo lane, solo lane, or mid lane? Who's getting the Phoenix first?
We're
And
just sort of sprinting
duo
down
lane
the
always won because it was 2 people. It was a bit unfair for us, but
yeah. And you were in the duo lane.
oh, of
And
course.
so it's unfair inherently. Whatever role of
Inherently.
the map that you're in
Absolutely.
is lopsided for you.
just naturally,
Especially
like
when
that.
it's the Ganesh, right? that's when the game is just over.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Did you ever get personal banned? Like, would Ganesh just get like target banned against you constantly? The Ganesh specifically, or were there other picks more notable than the Ganesh that were getting banned out against you?
So I played 3 years in total. The first year, it was Geb and Ganesh were the two. Like, if you knew who you were playing, you were banning those two for the most part.
Right.
Year 2, it was a lot of Horus and Kuzenbo. And Kuzenbo wasn't that good. And
Was that because your Geb and Ganesh fell off, or were Geb and
meta
Ganesh
switch
not
kinda.
good in the moment?
Yeah,
Sure.
they weren't good in the moment. I really do like the Horus. The Kuzenbo's just funny and annoying. That's why I liked him. And year
Kuzenbo is
three-
obnoxious. Yeah,
Year 3, it was Ymir, and Ocean's kind of putting that into
Yeah,
why.
really giving us a good example of maybe why Ymir was banned out against you so heavily. That's a mid Phoenix at the 20.5 minute mark.
Yeah.
18 seconds remaining on the Titan. Is it game over? Can we kill the Titan at 21 minutes?
Oh,
I
we're
think the
certainly trying.
Weavers, begging for this game to be over at this point. 7-0-6. This is a solo lane masterclass from Delny. And in just shy of 21 minutes, the Xibalba Storm make their mark. 0-9 before we get away from that screen there. And don't worry, we'll look at the stats here in just a moment.
Man.
Forgettable one for Mando Warrior. But every once in a while, a game just kind of gets away from you.
Yeah.
You know? I think this one got away from Mando a bit.
Yeah, and not to talk about Mando too much, right?
We
the
have
rest,
to.
The
That
rest
was-
of the Weavers looked very, very strong, at least
Sure.
in that early game. Delny really did capitalize on not only the matchup. Ratatosker is very weak once you get it rolling. I hate to say Mando showed us exactly how, but it's very easy to die. Items don't come online as quick. You kind of bring that pressure, leak it out in the mid lane into the jungle, especially when you have a jungler such as Ao Kwong. No one's there to defend your blue buffs when you get behind. No one's there to kind of give you backup when you need it. You send 2 people over into solo lane with such a fed King Arthur. They're running it down. You can see speed invades kind of even were like the furthest that Delny made it. You can just see 2 people show up to blue. Delny doesn't get blue. Sure, he's gonna get a kill anyway. It was big pressure in that side, and that kind of leaked over into the other lanes. Had Mando not had been caught out so much, gotten so weak, gotten so behind in gold and XP, I think this could have been a very good game for the Storm. There was a lot of good plays that we saw from the other players of the team, and it's just unfortunate when you pick Ratatosker like that, you kind of expect it to go into the jungle. I am a little questioning of what the exact call for that was, at least on the Weavers squad. I think Chinfu pulling out the Ratatosker give a warrior that can kind of match the pressure that Downey had in that lane just instinctively off of this pick could have been very positive for the Weavers. We don't see that, unfortunately, and I mean, the tail of the tape is just there was too much to deal with and not enough priority on ourselves if you're in the Weavers.
If I remember correctly, Delny got married this week, and so I think a really great week for Delny overall.
The funniest tweet was the proposal image from
the spouse when it was the World Championship
ring. It was the World Championship ring. The response to that, which was, "I was just kidding, guys."
Just kidding.
But it was real.
Right. That was a little while ago, and I believe him and his significant other actually got full on married this week. So congrats to Delny on An incredible game number 2 here. That's one of the most ridiculous solo lane games I've seen in recent memory, and a very happy week for Delmy and their family overall. And, of course, for the Xibalba Storm, because as we were talking about, standings earlier on, and we'll get a look at those here in just a little bit. The North American SEC is competitive, and it gets messy in the standings towards the end of some of these phases. You were pointing out how surprising it was that the Wardens were a bit lower down in the standings, which, again, very surprising when you consider the roster that they have. And so the Sages found the 2-1 win to start off this week in the SEC over the Wardens. The Eldritch Hounds against the Tanuki, also a 2-1 game.
Very, very good game for the Tanuki there. They really showed their stuff. Eldritch Hounds, distinctively known as the top team, at least for the NASCC, putting up such a good fight, such good prowess really showed them, and it kind of reflects here in the standings on the shift, at least, in these teams.
Yeah, sure does. Yeah, again, Cal and Wardens, I think that's got to be the surprise early on here. I mean, you're totally right. I think expected that the Hounds, the number 1 North American SEC team, but with how good the Wardens have been in the past, that's Relentless One, Sino, Moswald, Gino, Griff, the fact that team has started off their phase 0-2, I think raises some eyebrows, shows you really how competitive the North American SEC has become, because that Sino, Moswald, Gino kind of core 3v3 have been so strong for so long, and they'll get some wins here this phase. But right now, I'm just excited, Billy, to look forward to the Storm and the Hounds and their matchup later on in the North American SEC. But that is just a teaser for the SMITE action we've got for you here today. North American SEC is done. The SPL just around the corner in about 40 minutes' time. Valhalla Valkyries, Jade Dragon start off our SPL Saturday.